So this was originally supposed to be some sort of review of High School DxD, but I encountered a little bit of a problem. So let me roll credits and then I'll explain myself. Sometimes I get asked to do shows like High School DxD or Charger Girl Juden-chan or something, or even some of the more classy stuff like Yurikuma Arashi. Your bears bouncing here and there and everywhere. Yonic imagery without a care. Yuri bears. And I know that probably doesn't seem like it's any big deal to you guys, but it's kind of a problem for me personally, so let me give you the rundown of why. In our enlightened age, realizing now that the strict gender and sexuality binary is a goddamn joke, there are many people out there who don't fit into the whole hetero thing very well. Japan, bless their hearts, has yet to really get a handle on this. It's not completely common knowledge, but sociologically speaking, Japan is roughly 10 to 15 years behind the US as far as gender roles and all that is concerned. Now, don't take that as gospel, it's just kind of a general statement. But you can usually tell where a society is by their media. And if their media is to be believed, they're still in the lesbians are hot trope sector. And that's taking into account a long storied history of LGBT goings on in their media before that whole little nationalist dust up in the 1900s. This does, however, mean that a lot of their media is directed at straight men, as is the case with shows like High School DxD, Is This a Zombie, and stuff like Hajime no Garu. These shows, in short, are all about boobers and panties, and as someone who's asexual, that's ace for short, incidentally, it's a little weird. So, I'm gonna go off script for a hot second and give you the scoop on how this works. Thank you, scripted me. So let me break it down to you like this. Imagine that as you're growing up throughout your life and you become a teenager and all that stuff, everybody starts talking about how much they love eating trash. And, just digging around in garbage and like everybody start like eating garbage. Well, that's weird. Doesn't that sound odd to you? There's even a class in school that tells you about, oh, hey, yeah, no, this is how you eat garbage. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you want to do that? Like, that just seems gross and unattractive. But at the same point, everybody else is like, hey, man, why aren't you eating garbage? What are you, some sort of loser? That you don't eat garbage like the rest of us? And so, you try to blend in a little bit. Like, oh, yeah, no, you gotta eat garbage the whole time. Yeah, it's great. And there are entire scenes in movies. There's an entire industry like, ooh, yeah, and watch this chick eat garbage. Oh, that's hot. Don't you want to eat garbage with her? Ha ha. Ooh, yeah. And I mean, obviously, if you've got two brain cells to rub together, you're picking up on what I'm getting at. But imagine that is your entire experience with sexual attraction. Especially if you're sex repulsed like me, then it feels like everybody around you is eating garbage and doesn't think anything weird of it, but you're the one who's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And then, as you get older, you start to wonder, oh man, like, am I the fucked up one for not wanting to eat garbage like everybody else? It turns out no, because neither one of you is fucked up. Some people just like doing that for whatever God knows what reason, or they're wired for it, and you're not. I'm really glad that we know about this now. Like, I'm glad that we're aware of sexuality, like, being on this big, broad spectrum. Because when I was growing up, either you were straight or you're gay. Like, there was no in between. And there was, like, this mystical bi creature that nobody talked about. But, like, as as we've advanced as a society since, the early 2000s, like, oh, wait, no, some people are demi. Some people are sex positive but asexual. Some people are sex neutral. Some people are sex repulsed. Some people are just, they are what they are. There's not just two sexualities out there. There's not just one, but at the same point, like, nobody makes movies for aces. There's not There's not an entire industry devoted to it. And when you're kind of bombarded, at least in American society, I can't say this for the rest of the universe or even the rest of North America. When you're just bombarded by this all the time, it's just like, man, I am a freaking weirdo for not wanting to basically do the equivalent of even eating garbage. And I'm using that in the idea that I have the same interest in having regular, any sort of heterosexual or homosexual sex. In I have the same amount of interest in sexual relations as I do in going into a dumpster and eating like day-old garbage and, wiping raccoon poop off of it. Like that's I know that sounds like shocking maybe to some of you, and then there are some of you who are like, oh, I gotta hit that unsubscribe button because I'm fucking queer or whatever. Like, well, yeah, I am. I am in that spectrum. I am proudly LGBTQ, and I'm not alone. And you can't deal with that. That's your problem. But when it comes to the state of watching ecchi stuff, imagine you're the only person in the world without a Guro fetish, and you see movies dedicated to that, like, and everybody treats it as normal. That is the Ace experience in a nutshell. And some of us, a lot of us, I believe, have tried to acclimatize. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'll just go do. Like, oh God, every part of this is awful. Just trying to fake being straight, and I'm lucky because I'm hetero-romantic, which means I'm attracted to women. I get to be straight passing. If the jackboots come and kick in my door tomorrow and they're like, well, you have to have sex to prove you're not a queer. Well, I guess they're hanging me from the rafters. This is a legitimate concern I have, by the way, and I'll put that, I'll put that in a thought later, but let me tell you, the Ace experience is not something that is fun in this hyper-sexualized world we live in. Don't recommend it, but you don't get to choose these things now, do ya? Anyway, kick it back to regular scripted me for something that's actually funny, maybe. I hope. So if you need a quick version of the whole thing, it's like being in Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Everyone is doing something that you want nothing to do with and acting like it's perfectly normal. So if you try and blend in and acclimate, then suddenly you're doing things you don't want to, but if you say you're not into it, then suddenly you're the outcast. And as we know, outcasts turn to other pursuits like anime or board games. Now, this is an issue because anime has a whole subgenre of ecchi that it's like a bullhorn reminding you that you're an outcast, and no amounts of hey-yas and the way you moves is going to fix that. So how do you power through this as an ace person? Not all aces think the same thing. Some of them are sex positive or neutral or repulsed. Now, I'm in the camp that's mildly sexually repulsed, which makes ecchi shows like the kind that some people want me to try and review somewhat, shall we say, not palatable. Now, putting aside the fact that these shows are pretty much all the same and generally in poor taste across the board, they are by their very nature anathema to me. I mean, you'd think I'd just end the video there, right? But more to the point, going through shows like that are kind of like eating bland oatmeal, but then suddenly finding a whole skunk in it. The reaction is initially like shock and distress, but after enough incidents of getting a spoonful of angry polecat, it all just sort of grays out. Now, I'm asexual, but I'm not aromantic. That's a whole other kettle of worms. I also experience aesthetic attraction, so if you watch the last video in this series, you'd know that leans towards, big boobs and purple hair. Who knew? So does this mean that I judge ecchi stuff by a different metric? Well, I try not to, but let me tell you, they're rarely very good. And usually what makes them palatable is comedy. But then they have the horniest people in the universe doing the comedy, and then it just starts being about boobs, and, well, congrats, you lost me. It's not even a whole big issue like can't, like I'm physically incapable of it, in that I just find no appeal in it whatsoever. So to answer the question, what's it like being ace and watching ecchi? It is, in a word, awful. If the things surrounding an ecchi show are at least a little bit interesting, maybe it's something I can sit through. But if it's just an excuse to show TNA, or any of the weird, really kink-inspired ones, then it can be kind of like watching a movie of surgery, or, ripping your own wisdom teeth out. Now, if that seems odd to you, just be thankful you're not ace, because it's kind of a pain in the ass. If any of this resonates with you out there as another ace person or somebody who's trying to figure out if they're ace or demi, which is on the spectrum too, you got a friend in me. I mean, unless you voted for Trump, but that's beside the point. So with that well in mind, I think this is about as close to me ever reviewing high school DxD in a serious light. So let me put it to you this way. It's not fun, it's not funny, it's garbage, and you should be ashamed for watching it. Unless you're one of those weird people who actually gets off on that, and I will never understand your brain. So good luck and God bless. That being said, this is Professor Otaku, the greatest ace American anime critic, signing off.